What is the secret for three guys in ZZ Top? And we've been at this, we being ZZ Top.
Billy Gibbons, an irreplaceable name on the map of American rock, is the soul of ZZ Top, always carrying a powerful and resilient vitality within the music industry. Yet just moments ago, a piece of news was released that made his fans hold their breath. A quiet event, yet strong enough to shake the rock community. Billy Gibbons had once walked through the most chaotic years of American music, had survived the storm of an era while preserving the raw dustiness in every riff. But this time, something has changed. It is not a wrong note, nor a cancelled tour, but a heavy silence that suffocates. What has caused that Iron Man to fall into such deep stillness? Could his health be in danger, or is it a silent loss? He does not want the world to know. Could this be the prelude to a farewell? Let us uncover the journey of Billy Gibbons, how he became a legend, and how he never fell to drugs, fame, or tragedy. 1. Billy Gibbons, the icon of American rock. Billy Gibbons, born under the scorching sun of Houston on December 16, 1949, grew up not in hardship, but in melodies. For him, music was never a choice, but a destiny. In the home of a seasoned conductor like Frederick Royal Gibbons, a man who once collaborated with MGM Studios, every meal could become a jazz discussion, every evening echoed with classical compositions, and every corner carried shadows of stage legends. In that space, music was the main heartbeat, the invisible thread connecting father and son. One afternoon, in 1955, when Texas burned like fire, 5-year-old Billy was taken by his mother to an Elvis Presley concert. Stage lights poured over the glittering white suit, the crowd screamed like a storm, and the music exploded inside his chest. Billy did not scream, did not dance. He simply stood still. And in that stillness, a decision was born. He would never walk away from that light. Not long after, Frederick led Billy into a world few his age could enter, a professional recording studio. He wasn't there to mess around, but to observe. Through the soundproof glass, Billy saw B.B. King recording for the first time. A private concert meant only for headphones and souls. The guitar moaned, lamented, and struck his chest with a fateful blow. It wasn't a music lesson. It was a first meeting with the future. To broaden his horizons, Frederick sent Billy to New York and entrusted him to Tito Puente, the master of Latin rhythm. To hold the beat, you must hear the crowd's heart, Tito said. Billy learned to drum with his whole body. He learned to hold his breath, to feel the rhythm, learn to exhale, to lead it. These lessons later blended into his gritty groove guitar, shaped the unmistakable style of Billy Gibbons. Then came Christmas at age 13. No gift has ever changed a life the way that Gibson Melody Maker guitar and Fender Champ amp did. That winter night, instead of celebrating with family, Billy slammed the door shut and began a journey no one could pull him away from. Blood seeped from his fingertips into the strings as he followed Jimmy Reed, Muddy Waters, Lightnin' Hopkins. Each note a vow. Teenage years arrived fast and wild. Gibbons enrolled in the Hollywood Professional School, a breeding ground for young artists. There, he didn't just study academics, but lived among big dreams. The hallways echoed with Liza Minnelli's footsteps. Classrooms revealed glimpses of Broadway dancers, and in one quiet corner, Billy Gibbons tuned his guitar. Inside him, a legend was silently but fiercely taking root. Gibbons did not study like others. While classmates focused on exams, he slipped into studio backrooms, twisted amplifiers, tinkered with fuzz boxes, tore apart circuits, and reassembled them in ways no one had taught. He didn't learn to succeed. He learned to be different. That was when the thick, snarling guitar tone of ZZ Top first began to take shape. Not yet complete, but already growling like a beast, preparing to pounce. By day, he was a student, by night, a street performer. Gibbons played with the Saints, Billy G and the Blue Flames, then the Coachmen. His small apartment became a studio, a canvas, a sketch pad for riffs, all swirling together like a creative storm. And within that storm, a new figure emerged, the urban cowboy, a Texas player with a long beard, black sunglasses, the soul of the blues, and a heart that never tired. Billy Gibbons did not grow up dreaming of fame. He grew up with the responsibility to create music. Not to sell tickets or win awards, but to pass on the feeling that once made a 5-year-old boy stand frozen before Elvis Presley. And from that moment until now, Gibbons has never stopped playing. Because if he did, his heart would stop with him. 2. From the moving sidewalks to ZZ Top. In the late 1960s, when America was drowning in marijuana smoke, psychedelic shimmer, and anti-war chants, Billy Gibbons chose a path no one could predict. He didn't chase trends or hide in the shadows of legends. Instead, he formed the Moving Sidewalks, an acid rock band steeped in hallucinogenic sound, heavily influenced by Cream and Jimi Hendrix. They released Flash in 1968, an album not quite explosive enough to set the market on fire, but powerful enough to earn nods from music critics and to get Billy's name scribbled into the notebooks of rock journalists. The Sidewalks weren't just another rebellious youth band. They were a raw and defiant explosion. Their track 99th Floor quickly climbed local charts, strong enough to win them a rare honor opening for the one and only Jimi Hendrix, the era's undisputed guitar god. Backstage, on that first night, Hendrix turned to Billy and said, "You play pretty good, man, but let me show you how to flip the floor." But Hendrix didn't just show a few tricks. He pulled Gibbons into an entirely new universe where the guitar wasn't just an instrument, but a weapon, a prayer, a sky-splitting scream. Billy didn't mimic Hendrix. He studied him, decoded him, then distorted every technique into something wholly his own, rough yet smooth, violent yet seductive, like a scratch and a whisper wrapped into one irresistible tone. The most iconic moment, Hendrix knighting Gibbons. On national television, during the Mike Douglas show, Billy Gibbons is one of the finest young guitarists in America. A statement that hit the soaked earth of the music world like a thunderbolt. When Hendrix spoke, the world listened, and Billy Gibbons stepped into the light. Then came the decline of acid rock. While the Moving Sidewalks disbanded, Gibbons moved forward. He returned to the blues blood that had pulsed in his veins from the beginning and started crafting a new idea. A 3-piece band, small in number, but massive in sound. A band loud enough to fill every stage, deep enough to scar itself into the listener's memory like a beautiful wound. In 1969, ZZ Top was born. Gibbons on guitar and lead vocals, Dusty Hill thumping the bass, Frank Beard hammering the drums. At first, they were like every other Texas bar band, playing smoky dives, warming up crowds for bigger names, collecting scattered applause. But in Gibbons's mind, the vision was already larger. He wanted to create a Southern icon, a band that smelled of gasoline, roared like engines, carried the dust of highways, and the pop of beer cans cracked open under a sweltering night sky. ZZ Top's debut album dropped in 1971, and it sent a clear message: this band had it. Riffs that were simple yet haunting, sound soaked in Texas soul. At the center was Billy, the style shaper, the flame keeper, the architect of a look that would become legendary: long beard, black shades, cowboy hat, and silver-trimmed jacket. He didn't just play in a band, he turned it into a living brand, and they became one of the longest surviving three-man groups in rock history. From raw blues, ZZ Top evolved into boogie, then expanded into an irreplaceable icon on America's musical map. But everything from the dusty Texas bars to global stages started from a very simple thought. In Billy Gibbons' mind, we don't need more people. We just need the right ones and a guitar that feels like something. If the 1970s laid the solid foundation for ZZ Top's musical identity, then the 1980s were their explosion, when Billy Gibbons and his band turned into a global phenomenon. No longer just a bluesy three-piece rock band, they became a cultural symbol in an era flooded with synth-pop MTV and neon lights. The question was, how did a Texas-rooted band break through in the age of image and technology? The answer lies in Billy Gibbons' calculated fusion of traditional musical soul and modern visual instinct. In 1973, ZZ Top released Tres Hombres, the album that took them beyond the southern borders of the US and spread their influence worldwide. Its breakout track, La Grange, roared like thunder in clear skies. With its growling blues riff, inspired by a notorious brothel, the song quickly cemented itself as one of the most iconic rock anthems of all time. But Gibbons didn't stop there. He understood that in a rising visual age, music had to tell stories through both ears and eyes. Then came 1983, a turning point. Eliminator was born. This groundbreaking album delivered a string of mega hits: Sharp-Dressed Man, Gimme All Your Lovin' Legs, and turned ZZ Top into MTV royalty. While many bands struggled to adapt to the music video revolution, ZZ Top ruled the screen. The humorous visuals, the ultra-cool vintage car, the sizzling girls, and two mysterious long-bearded men all fused into an unmistakable visual icon. Eliminator sold over 10 million copies in the US alone, an astronomical figure for a band born in dusty Texas bars. But what truly set them apart was this. Despite the electronic soundscape, ZZ Top never lost their roots. Billy Gibbons never abandoned his raw blues feel, the sharp woody riffs, the smoky growl of his vocals, or his motionless yet magnetic stage presence. He didn't need to jump or shout. He just plucked a note, and the whole arena held its breath. From 1983 to 1990, ZZ Top wasn't just a band, they were a brand. They appeared in commercials, movies, even Lego figurines, becoming an essential part of American pop culture. In 2004, the band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, standing shoulder to shoulder with other legendary trios like Rush and The Police. Through it all, Billy Gibbons remained the ultimate mastermind, the sound architect, the producer, the final decision maker. He never had to scream to assert leadership. His guitar spoke louder than any command. Gibbons' solos weren't about flaunting technique. They were the whispers of power, confident swings that made listeners feel like he was telling stories through strings. Beyond ZZ Top, Billy expanded his reach. He collaborated with Slash Queens of the Stone Age, produced for countless artists, and even crossed into television playing Angela Montenegro's father in the hit series Bones. Even when stepping into new worlds, he never lost his essence. He didn't chase trends. He dug deeper into the past to prove one thing: classic never goes out of style. For Gibbons, the best guitar riff isn't the fastest or most complex. It's the one that hits at the right time in the right place with the right emotion, just like how he led ZZ Top, not loud, not flashy, but utterly irreplaceable. 3. The profound grief of Dusty Hill's passing. Every legend walks through fire. Every monument withstands trials. In the chaotic world of rock, where bandmates often fall apart over money, fame, or lethal highs, ZZ Top remained whole for over half a century. It was a miracle, woven from the unbreakable bond between Billy Gibbons and Dusty Hill. Not just bandmates, but brothers in spirit, a bond etched deeper than music. In the summer of 2021, that bond suddenly snapped. Dusty Hill passed away, a blow that landed square in the chest of millions of fans, and hardest of all, Billy. One day, they were patting each other on the backstage, planning the next tour. The next day, the stage was silent. The bass lay still. The mic no longer echoed. Every familiar sound suddenly became a memory. On July 28th, the world of rock fell into silence. Dusty Hill, the quiet thunder of ZZ Top's bass, took his final breath in Houston. No grand ceremony was needed. Billy could feel the earth shake beneath his boots. No one saw him collapse, no one heard him cry. But everyone knew a seismic wave had erupted inside the ever-composed artist. Before passing, Dusty clasped his longtime friend's hand and whispered, "Give Elwood the bottom end and take it to the top." Just 6 words, but they carried the weight of a will. A message, a command, and a final goodbye. Dusty didn't just hand over the bass, he passed on responsibility. And Billy, with all his loyalty, kept the promise. On their first night back, Dusty's cowboy hat was placed carefully on the mic stand. A soft yellow spotlight shone down, not too bright, but enough to make the crowd choke up. As Dusty's voice rang out from a recorded version of Tush, Billy tilted his head, dodging the light, as if to swallow his emotions whole. To his left was an emptiness one no stage could ever fill. Elwood Francis, the longtime bass technician, stepped into the role. He played like he had memorized Dusty's every breath. No flair, no spotlight stealing. He stood like a shadow, a respectful and humble continuation, but the real heart of the sound, Dusty still lived in every vibration of the strings. Billy felt it. The audience felt it. And every night, he brought Dusty's bass to the stage, placing it where it always stood like a sacred ritual before every journey. ZZ Top never chased trends, never bent to the times. Billy Gibbons once told Guitar World, "I play to keep my own spirit intact." That philosophy has never wavered. From the classic guitar sounds of the early days, to the electrified groove of Eliminator, to the modern hues in his solo records, Billy has always walked his own path, the one that leads straight to the audience's heart without shortcuts. In a rock world addicted to noise, Billy Gibbons stands apart. No drama, no desperation, no pomp, When he leaves the stage, he returns to the Texas desert, living among vintage cars, sacred guitars, and strange treasures. The media rarely follows. He's not on social media, but his guitar, echoing across tour after tour, finds its way into every corner of America, carrying the scent of gasoline dust and a nameless loneliness. Billy doesn't cling to youth. He walks with time, striding alongside past and present, so the music can keep telling the story that Dusty began. ZZ Top hasn't stopped. They keep rolling down the dry highways of the South, through burning cities, carrying blazing riffs and the unbroken spirit of men who never back down. For has his health declined? The world outside gleams with dazzling lights, but it's littered with traps named vanity bands, torn apart by jealousy, legends crumbling under drugs, monuments vanishing quietly after a few tragic stumbles. Billy Gibbons still stands tall, not out of luck, but because he knows himself knows where he's headed and has chosen a path that refuses to waver. He doesn't show up at loud parties, doesn't grace the covers of tabloids, doesn't let others define his life with scandals or gossip. Gibbons has walked through decades of rock and roll with the calm gait of someone who's seen it all, tasted the bitter and the sweet, and knows what's truly worth holding on to. The only love of his life, Gilligan. Stillwater is not some dreamlike muse, not a woman of the stage, but a true companion, walking beside him through every high and low. They met by chance, loved in silence, and lived together as if it were promised from a past life. No grand wedding, no flowery vows yet. They've stuck together for over half a lifetime. When Gibbons turned 56, he and Gilligan finally held a small ceremony in Texas. Just close friends, a local blues band, a humble meal, and a bourbon toast to grown-up love. Their home isn't in the heart of the city, nor is it plastered with artist portraits or shiny awards. It's a space filled with music, the smell of worn leather, the growl of vintage engines, and the gentle breath of the Texas desert. In a living room lined with guitars, Gilligan brews coffee each morning, while Gibbons wipes down his favorite guitar, adjusts the neck, changes the strings, and plays a slow blues riff, like a whispered conversation with the past. Gibbons loves vintage cars as deeply as he loves Delta blues. He customizes each car by hand, paints each detail with inspiration, and gives them names like Cadzilla, Mexican Blackbird, or Blue Flame, blending rock, spirit, with echoes of old Southern ballads. Once he drove 3 straight days without sleep, chasing a 1957 Thunderbird his father once owned. When he found it, in a decaying garage on the outskirts of Amarillo, he bought it on the spot and restored every bolt and scratch like he was stitching together a piece of childhood. Gibbons's life leaves no room for superficiality. Every daily ritual has meaning. Every guitar holds a story, and every song is played as if it's the last time. He wakes at dawn, replays old Howlin' Wolf records, eats eggs and black coffee, and spends the morning in his garage silently tinkering with the same car he left half done last month. In the afternoon, he wanders through antique stores, hunting for an old amp or a Woo Zippo lighter. At night, he plays music in his private studio, either alone or with a few lifelong friends. Once in mid-2019, Gibbons suddenly disappeared from a rehearsal, and no one knew where he'd gone. 3 days later, he returned face calm, eyes still blazing, with a demo titled "Cross the Dust," a track he wrote in the desert while driving his Cadillac across the New Mexico border, trying to reclaim a lost spark after a close friend's death. For Billy, music always says what words cannot. Billy Gibbons, at 75, still stands firm on stage, like a monument untouched by time. Though age has crept into his eyes and fingers, he's never slowed, never stopped burning. ZZ Top's tour schedule remains packed with dozens of shows across America, and Gibbons plays every night, as if it's the final show of his life. Amid the lights and the roar of the crowd, he's not just playing guitar, he's igniting souls. His health, according to close friends, remains surprisingly solid. He maintains a strict diet, little red meat, minimal sugar, and an obsession with Mexican-style stir-fried vegetables. Every morning, he does stretches, breathing exercises, meditation, and takes long walks around his backyard. His hearing, a lifeline for any rock musician, is something Gibbons treats like a sacred relic. He never blasts music in headphones, always checks sound systems meticulously before each show, and has his ears examined every 3 months. "I need to hear every frequency, every vibration, like listening to a whisper from my own soul," he once said in a rare interview. Longtime ZZ Top sound techs say he hears a millisecond offbeat. No ear that old should be this sharp. Still, no one survives rock and roll without scars. Gibbons once underwent wrist surgery in 2016 after a minor fall in the garage, a consequence of decades of ferocious guitar playing. He recovered in under a month, did physical therapy at home, and returned to the stage with a leather wrist brace he designed himself. Pain is part of the journey, he said upon his comeback. It reminds you you're still alive. And he is alive, not merely existing. Still touring, still recording, still driving across America to visit obscure guitar shops in strange states. Each show is a conversation between an aging body and a heart that refuses to grow old. Every time he steps on stage, the audience rises, applauds, and goes silent when his guitar sings. His face is tough as sandstone, his beard long, like a living legend, and his eyes glance to the left, where Dusty Hill once stood, as if he still hears the bass line echoing from another dimension. 5. Legacy left behind. To this day, Billy Gibbons' legacy doesn't lie in how often he's appeared in the press or in fleeting fame. It lives in every bend, every thunderous riff, from the guitar he's held close all his life. He isn't flashy like Eddie Van Halen, doesn't flaunt technique like Steve Vai, and never had to scream for recognition. Billy chose a different path, a silent but razor-sharp journey that winds through the southern highways of America, where every note is a whisper from the soul. His guitar-playing style is a seamless blend of tradition and instinct. From the low-slung blues groove southern boogie to the gravelly roar of a Marshall amp, everything he plays breathes with raw, dusty, and brutally honest spirit. But what made him a legend isn't speed nor complexity. It's restraint, the well-timed silence. Music isn't about what you play. It's about what you don't play. Billy once said this at a seminar, and the room went completely still. In a world where music is measured in views and followers, he clings to one truth: sound must have emotion, and an artist must have identity. And it's this philosophy that turned him into a model for generations of musicians to follow. Dave Grohl, Jack White, Dan Auerbach, the Black Keys, John Mayer. All openly express admiration for Billy Gibbons, not just for what he plays, but for what he chooses not to. Integrity, a no-compromise attitude, and the relentless pursuit of authenticity, those are the real lessons they took from him. And his influence doesn't stop at the world of guitars. Under Gibbons' leadership, ZZ Top transcended the boundaries of a rock band. They became pop culture icons. The image of two long-bearded cowboys cruising in a red Cadillac in those 1980s MTV videos wasn't just music, it was a statement of style. That image still appears in films, ads, video games, an indelible mark, cool, simple, and uncompromising. Part of his soul's legacy is the 1959 Gibson Les Paul Pearly Gates, the silent companion that gave birth to countless legendary riffs. Gibson later reissued it as a signature model, making it a collector's treasure. But no matter how many replicas exist out there, there is only one Billy Gibbons, and only one sound, one born from a man who lives real, plays real, and is real. Beyond music, Billy Gibbons is a true visual artist. He left deep imprints in the worlds of custom cars, fashion, and design areas you'd never expect from a southern guitar slinger. From partnering with luxury eyewear brands, American-style custom car shops, to appearing in hit TV shows, he always brought with him an unmistakable image. Long beard, blacked-out sunglasses, wide-brimmed cowboy hat, like he's silently telling the world, "I've always been me, and I see no reason to change." That unwavering consistency is Billy Gibbons' greatest weapon. In a world constantly shifting, he stands firm like a monument. No scrambling, no noise, but when he hits a single note, the world seems to pause for a second to listen. That's the power of an artist who doesn't follow the times, but forces time to catch up to him. Today, while many of his contemporaries have retired or now live off the glow of the past, Billy Gibbons still stands tall on stage like he's never known fatigue. After the sudden passing of his soul brother Dusty Hill in 2021, Gibbons didn't retreat. Instead, he gripped his guitar tighter and continued touring with ZZ Top across America and the world, a silent promise whispered to Dusty, "I'll keep the flame burning for you." And he didn't stop there. Gibbons maintains a vibrant solo career with diverse flavors. From Afro-Cuban rhythms in Perfectamundo 2015 to classic blues grit in the Big Bad Blues 2018 to the wild, rough-edged Hardware 2021, each album is a new experiment, yet all remain rooted in that familiar Southern blues soul. He never repeats himself, but never betrays the roots that shaped him into a legend. Heading into 2024 and 2025, Gibbons continues to prove that age does not dull passion. He released the single, "Living It Up Down in Texas," contributed to the soundtrack for the TV series Landman, and is now gearing up for his fourth solo album. Meanwhile, ZZ Top is preparing to drop their first studio album in over 2 decades, marking a dramatic new chapter for the veteran band. Even past 75, Gibbons shows no sign of slowing down. In early 2025, he toured with the BFGs, then immediately reunited with ZZ Top for the Elevation Tour, spanning over 50 shows across North America. Even as drummer Frank Beard stepped back for health reasons, Gibbons continued to steer the ZZ Top ship forward, just as he always has. Billy Gibbons' career is a steady march filled with deep tones and a rhythm that never breaks. How many artists still dare to live truthfully, even silently? How many legends preserve their identity while the world around them changes by the hour? And will there ever be another who dares step on stage with just a guitar, a silver beard, and let music say all that can't be spoken? Billy Gibbons never needed to chase immortality, because the way he lives, the way he plays, has already etched his name into the ever-flowing current of rock and blues history. He never promised the world anything, and he asks nothing in return except a stage, a guitar, and souls still willing to listen. Thanks for joining the ride. If you find value in stories like this, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. See you in the next video.